Ja, herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe SI Talk. Ich bin PDSI, wie Sie unschwer erkennen können. Spannende Zeiten, also gerade auch was Rohstoffsektor betrifft. Wir kommen zum Silber. Aftermath Silber ist ein großer Explorer, der mir eigentlich schon sehr oft über den Weg gelaufen ist. Und ich habe aber noch nie die Möglichkeit gehabt, eigentlich ein Interview zu machen. Und ich habe da jetzt eigentlich einen Founder und der Executive Chairman bei mir. Wir werden jetzt einfach einmal ein bisschen auf den Zahn fühlen, was die Company so macht. Thank you. Thank you for having time. And I said in my German introduction that you're Chairman and founder of the company. And we are now in the space of silver. And I hear your name really often when we talk with other people. You know, the German community is small, and
it is,
and we talk each other, and it's really often that your name coming up. So, but maybe, and this is a start interview. My people don't know really about your company. So, why is the reason that so many German talks about you? What makes you so excited?
Well, I've been in the industry now 30 years. I think this is my 29th PDAC. I didn't make the one with COVID because it was canceled, but you get a lot of experience during those 30 years. And when you focus on one industry, as you said, it is small. I think there's 2,000 companies like ours in, say, Australia, Canada, United States, junior mining companies. Mm-hmm. Of that 2,000, I would say 200 are companies that your viewers should pay attention to. Mm-hmm. They have assets, they have management, and they have ability to raise capital. But of those 200, there's not 200 good CEOs or chairmen. So I think we fill a void in the industry because we have a project. Our flagship is Berenguela in Peru. It's big. One of the biggest silver development companies globally, has an equal value of copper, but it also has a metal called manganese, and it's the type of manganese that's going to be used in EV batteries, and that's unique. So we've got the product. We've got what we call in Canada a 43-101 out, which is a resource that meets certain criteria that allows us to talk about it publicly. And we're in the process of going to pre-feasibility study. Mm-hmm. So to your point, I think why a lot of people talk about us is because we have a good project. It's silver focused, and a lot of people like silver. We're a little bit ahead of the silver curve. We could see what was happening. Mm-hmm. The reason I wanted to build a silver company, because silver is now 65% industrial. And when I say industrial, it's solar panels, it's aeronautics. Silver is the most conductive metal on the planet. Mm-hmm. There's, I would say 25, 30 good silver companies globally. There's probably 200 to 300 really good gold companies. Mm-hmm. Silver's a harder metal to make work. So we hit above our weight class because we've got a lot of silver. Our recent resource was 120 million ounces in measured and indicated, with a further 20 million in inferred. And then we're close to 1 billion pounds of copper, the majority being measured and indicated. I think it's like 890 million pounds in measured and indicated. And then we've got manganese, but manganese is a unique metal. Mm-hmm. Manganese, there's a lot of it globally. Mm-hmm. But it's largely used in the steel industry. Type of manganese we have works in the EV batteries, in the cathode portion of the battery. Mm-hmm. And if you look at all the new chemistries, even some of the older chemistries, they're all using manganese now. It gives a little bit longer charges, less cycles that you need, and a little bit more energy. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the big reasons, it replaces cobalt in some circumstances. Manganese in the United States is $2,500 a ton. It's $1,000 in China, and we should probably talk about that because China processes 92% of the world's manganese now, as it does with most critical metals. But cobalt is $10,000 a ton. So there is no real battery chemistry going forward without an M in it. So what our strategy is, because we have so much silver and silver, you still get the financial component compared to gold, the gold side, which a lot of people have historically loved. But now you also get the industrial side, and it's increasing. As I say, we've been in deficit for silver for 6 years.
Yeah, I know.
Right. And there's very few of us with these large deposits. But mining is about making money, not about producing metals. So we could have a scenario, and the PFS will tell this, where, you've got your copper largely making as one of the lowest cost silver producers, or potentially. And now with the price of silver, we can focus on high-grade silver for 5 years with the copper, and then worry about bringing in the manganese when the offtake agreements. So we offer the shareholder flexibility. Mm-hmm. I always describe it like this: if you own Aftermath, it's like holding a unit. So the unit, the share is the silver, the warrant is the manganese and copper, but you get those. It's called it's a bonus, but it could be a significant bonus. Mm. So I can stand up in front of your audiences in Germany and just tell them what we've done and what we're doing, and I think that resonates. And the other thing too is we do have a very good management team. Our CEO, Ralph Rushton's a former Anglo-American geologist, but has spent another 20 years on the junior mining sector. Very capable individual. Has his own network, which is good. We've just brought on processing engineers and mining engineers. So we've got the team that can put this into production. So from a geological point of view, Projekt's de-risked, I think. Mm. The PFS, and from an engineering point of view, it's right at surface. It's de-risked.
Two things. One thing is when you process, so I go a little bit further. Is manganese not a problem with the silver component? So what kind of it is? Is it from process type? The flow sheets looks a little bit different.
Joe, that's a good question, and I will say this: it used to be a problem processing, and I'm not suggesting it's easy, but historically, that's why this deposit is still there, because the manganese historically made it difficult to separate the silver and the copper to get what we call recoveries. Mm-hmm. So you're probably historically only going to get 65% of the metal out of the rock. Our new data from the tests we've done using a process called hydrometallurgy suggests our recoveries will be in the 90s and high 80s. So we've solved that problem. Where manganese becomes complex is I need to take it all out at the same time. And by that, what I mean is I can't just let's focus on the silver and copper and come back for the manganese. We're going to extract it all at the same time. We don't have to process it all at the same time. Mm-hmm. So, one of the things we're looking at is putting the manganese aside, processing the silver and copper, focusing on the mineralization right at surface that's high grade. Mm-hmm. And that, is for 5 years. And then problem with manganese, the Chinese have figured out how to process it. Mm. We could sell it to China for $1,000 a ton, and that's we still could do that. We are looking though at maybe processing in the United States, and I think if the new model is correct, what the U.S. government's been proposing, they're looking for companies like us to process in the U.S., and they'll help defer some of the cost to that processing. Mm-hmm. And then you're now getting $2,500 a ton, but that buys us time. Now, I'm just going to talk to manganese for a second. There's probably 10, 12 really good manganese companies globally. It's not a lot. Potentially, we're going to be let's call it the top 3 in size. If you go to put a manganese deposit into production, you need 12 to 18 months, maybe a little bit longer, to run tests with the battery companies who eventually will sell to the car people. But they have to make sure unequivocally that your chemistry works in the batteries, or the last thing they want is a recall. So a lot of the pure manganese guys won't have revenues for maybe 18 months. That's tough to put a deposit into production without getting any revenues. Because we have silver and copper, we don't have that problem. So
So it's really that you focus more on silver and copper, and the manganese is on the side. You can start the tests with all the OEMs and so on.
yes.
And then when they say ready to product, then you think to process them.
We start processing the manganese. Yeah, exactly.
So-
But we don't have to wait for a manganese market to process a silver and copper. That's what we think.
Okay. Brings me to the next question. We see this morning a takeover, hyper takeover, Sonaron. We see that the M&A activity is starting. Do you really think you do bring this project into production by your own, or do you think that it's a very good chance that somebody come in and take out your company, or take out you, I must say?
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, our largest shareholder is Eric Sprott. Now, Eric's a big, obviously, silver fan, and that's how he initially took a position in Aftermath. He had, I think it was 15.4%. He asked, this is a year and a half ago, if he could increase to 19.9 predicated on our silver. And we said, of course. But then he came back a month later and asked if he could go to 25%, because not only does he like silver and gold, he thinks manganese is a metal that's going to be highly sought after in this upcoming mining cycle where we're just beginning to enter. So having a 25%, and we're one of his largest holdings, I believe. So having a 25% shareholder, what it does, it allows us to be in charge of our destiny somewhat, because if someone came in and prematurely made an offer for us, that our management team, like now, if Eric agreed with us, we could say, no, we don't want to be bought. I will say this, though, most of management on our team's been involved historically in M&A activity. I think the best time would be after a pre-feas or a feasibility study is done. That way we know what we have. We can get a better valuation. We would be open to it. We have a saying in Canada, it might not translate to Germany, but Wayne Gretzky, our best hockey player ever, was traded. So if the money is right, everything's on the table. Now, the other side of that coin is, as a company and as a management team, you don't normally get the price you're seeking unless you're capable of putting it into production. So capable means two things. Number one is you have to have the right technical team that can carry it forward. And number two is you have to have the right management team that can access the capital required to put it into production. Now, if you don't have those two things, potential suitors just sit back and wait for you to fail. Now, if you look at who we've muscled up our team significantly, we've got a fellow named Danny Keating's our chief operating officer. This is his bailiwick. He's worked with manganese before, understands, the silver industry and copper. He is the quarterback or the center back for our pre-feasibility study. And we will be able to demonstrate, hey, we can put this into production ourselves. And we might choose to do that, but we need the flexibility of deciding after our economic numbers and after we've put our flow sheets together and we know what the capital costs are. We've got major companies circling us, but we're not ready. Now, there's one other thing that I think your listeners should understand or be aware of. We have the potential. Berenguela is a unique project. It's a carbonate replacement deposit. We think there might be other deposits associated with it. Those targets will be drill tested this year. And I can't transact on anything if we know that there might be a big porphyry close by, or the last holes we hit in the east of Berenguela, the one that comes to mind, 150 meters of 1.12% copper, 289 grams of silver, and 7% manganese. The copper equivalent on that hole was 5%. And we're seeing intrusive rock as well as the carbonate replacement rock. These systems are formed by volcanic activity that's usually on the periphery of the deposits. That's what we're going to be chasing. And we also had, 100-meter holes of similar grade. So as the copper increased, as we get closer to the heat source, that needs drill testing. And then on the different direction, there might be what we call a skarn mineralization. We're seeing 1.5% at surface over multiple kilometers. That needs drill testing. You'll see a drill in that, and I think in about 90 days. So I need to know what's there before I can even look at M&A.
For sure. It was only down the road where I say, okay, and to be honest, I think the most juniors or development companies, in the end, they end up in the hands of a bigger company. Well, that's the norm. It's not really often that somebody brings the project by itself in production.
Yeah, I remember years ago I was talking to the senior vice president of a company called Falconbridge, which eventually became, I think, Inco, that was bought out by Valley, right? And this was this is a big, I probably the market cap at the time it might have been 15 billion, some in that nature. And I said, what do you call a world-class ore body? And I was thinking he was going to say top 10% grade, top 10% size. And he goes, no, Mike, it's something so big that we can't even screw it up. And so I'm thinking, okay, that's Falconbridge, right? Putting something into production's not easy, but if there's a lot of value in it, you can afford for a smaller company to become a mid-tier producer eventually, maybe a senior producer. A deposit like Berenguela, you do have that potential. I can see it. Now, I'm not suggesting we're going to do it, because it's a big difference between development, which we're in now, building, and production. Those are different skill sets. I'm absolutely agree with you. And I saw really a lot of companies, they are struggling with this development. That is good. They are good in exploration. But then when it's come to a certain stage of development, then you see that now you need a different mindset. And that's totally different mindset.
And production is by itself then also a new challenge.
It's a new challenge. We jump from the exploration development to development, even though we still have exploration, by bringing on some very good people. But even then, it's a different. Now, if your deposit is, as I said, so valuable, it'll attract good people will want to work there. Okay. So I think what you need, Joe, is that flexibility, because I can always say to a copper producer or whomever might come after us, or a silver company, no, I think we're good. We can put this into production ourselves. Now, our largest shareholder at 25% has a big say in that. So I know that Eric, I don't deem to talk for him, but thinks we have a lot further to go before he'd even entertain it. And that's our mindset.
Okay. Before our time running out, what are the catalysts for the share price? What do you think in the next 9 to 10 months? What we can expect?
Okay, if I look at Aftermath, I think right now we're valued at 80, maybe as high as 90% because of the silver. So as the silver price moves, we move up or down. And, last year was a tremendous year, but we ostensibly went from $30 all the way up to $80, $90 today. So if silver moves, we go with it. We're known as one of the big silver resources out there. So I'd say the commodity price. Number two is look to our 2 drill programs this year. So we are going to be drilling on the main deposit at Berenguela itself. So you could see in some silver zones to tighten the drill spacings. But look for those 2 copper targets that are being drilled to the east, and the skarn deposit. Refugio is, I believe, what the geos are calling it. And then we'll be putting out some further metallurgy. So I think it's been de-risked geologically. It'll have a long enough mine line that would allow it to be financed, and we can increase that. Number 2, engineering. It comes right to the surface, so it'd be open pittable. My guess is a very low strip ratio. The pre-feasibility study will confirm that. So there'll be more met work coming out on top of the engineering and geology. That I think the last remaining question on this, and you kind of alluded to it earlier in the conversation, was on the processing side. Does the manganese make it difficult for the silver and copper? But we're going to focus on selling the silver through, we're going to produce silver bars, and we're going to produce either copper cathode through SXEW or converting it to a copper sulfide concentrate, which we can sell. And then we can worry about the manganese when that market comes back into vogue. So we have flexibility. So having a polymetallic deposit is a blessing and a curse. It's a curse from the point of view your metallurgy is more complicated, but it's a blessing when you figure it out, because now you have 3 valuable metals, and it allows you flexibility to see how you mine those.
And I think also in the old days it was important where not all metals running at the same time. You have more metals, so you have a higher chance that you have the metal of the year,
the flavor,
of the year. But with this market, it's different. Everything going up, and we have a total different market.
Listen, go ahead.
Sorry, but we must come to an end, and our time is running. I hope the other one is not knocking on the door. So I'll make a short summary. So wir sind hier in Peru, Silber, Kupfer und Manganese, die sind alle 3 quasi in einem Projekt, was relativ unique Kombination ist. Ich meine, Silber, Kupfer nicht, aber das Manganese dazu, und zwar hochgradig. Und sie haben eine sehr, sehr große Ressource. Deswegen kommt es mir auch so, oder bin ich so oft über die Company auch gestolpert. Airexport hat 25% der Aktien. Damit hat er auch viel zu sagen. Das heißt, er schützt einerseits natürlich, wenn ein unaufgefordertes Übernahmeangebot kommt, weil 25%, das kann man nicht übergehen. Das heißt, alleine dieser Anteil vom Airexport sorgt dafür, dass wahrscheinlich der Wert des Unternehmens noch umgeht. Sie wollen als erstes, wenn es geht, noch auf Silber und Kupfer schauen. Und das zweite ist eigentlich erst dann Manganese. Aber er sagt auch, Manganese ist einer der wenigsten beachteten Commodities, ist aber für die Batteriewirtschaft extrem wichtig. Nicht nur für die EVs, sondern natürlich auch für die Storage. I say that manganese is not only for the batteries, for the EV cars, it's also for the storage.
Yeah.
The storage is very important. It's also in Europe.
Absolutely.
Coming.
Agree.
So, und was jetzt das Wichtige ist, sie bohren natürlich, sie haben sehr gute Vermutungen. Also das ist ein sehr gutes Projekt, großes Projekt, aber sie haben einige Sachen noch nicht getestet, und das wollen sie heuer testen in ihre 2 Drillprogramme, und das soll man sich vor allem anschauen. Er hat vorher mit irgendwelchen Zahlen um sich geworfen, mit 100 Meter richtig große Kupferintervalle im Osten, glaube ich, vor einem Projekt. Das wollen sie einfach auch testen, weil dort könnte ein Porphyry stecken. Und wenn dort der Porphyry drinnen ist, dann wäre das natürlich eine ganz andere Dimension, als wie die Bewertung, was sie jetzt haben. Sie werden bewertet mit 80-90% des Silbers, also auf der Silver Value, aber die restlichen Kupfer und Manganese werden nicht bewertet. Und das ist eigentlich das große Upside-Potenzial. Wir sehen jetzt die ersten Übernahmen fangen an. Ich sage nicht, dass die Übernahmen nicht schon reif sind dafür, aber in einem Jahr oder 1,5 Jahren ist das ein ganz anderes Thema, wenn sie das nämlich alles ausgetestet haben. Und da könnte dann richtig die Musik spielen. Also spannende Sache, muss man sich auf die Agenda setzen. Und ja, das war's von Aftermath auf der PDSC 2026. Thank you.
Dankeschön.
Thank you. Ah, you speak German?
Nein.